And what are you finally most excited about Ncuti with all this?
To battle aliens for like a really long time. Like, I can't wait.
It was always the plan to do this amount of seasons. It's a role that demands a lot of you.
I invite you to remember back to 2022. We'd had the announcement that Russell T Davies would be returning to Doctor Who as showrunner for the 60th anniversary and the seasons beyond. And the question on everybody's mind was, who is going to play the next Doctor? And then, seemingly out of the blue, it was announced that the man to take on the role would in fact be Ncuti Gatwa. You can literally go back and see my live reaction to this take place, because I remember exactly where I was. We were in university, we were in this sort of ICT suite thing, doing some editing for that year's final major project, and it literally just dropped out of nowhere. We did a live stream and everyone was so excited.
He's going to add a very funny and energetic spark.
And he might bring a younger audience in.
Like, this seemed to be the perfect casting. It was a name that hadn't even been thrown around that much. Like, you always get your Chris Marshalls, your David Tennant coming back, which did actually happen. But no one really saw it coming.
Has revealed a new Doctor, and it is Ncuti Gatwa. He's best known for starring in Netflix sitcom Sex Education.
I and most of the people I was in that room with had watched Sex Education, the Netflix show which sort of made Ncuti Gatwa the star that he is. And he was so good in it. Like, that was such a show that chimed with our generation. Everybody knew who Ncuti Gatwa was. Everybody of our generation who'd sort of stopped watching Doctor Who immediately had their eyes drawn to it because Ncuti Gatwa's the Doctor. That's cool. I'll give it a watch. And then there were the subsequent announcements of the Whoniverse and spin-offs and this big Disney partnership. But here we are, 2 and a bit years to 3 years later, and nobody can tell you what the future of Doctor Who is shaping up to be. Ncuti Gatwa has already left the role, and it feels bizarre that this new hope has kind of gone. So I wanted to make this video today to look at every single 15th Doctor appearance and 15th Doctor story we had, which still feels bizarre to say. He's gone too soon. Ncuti left the role too soon.
The arms of the angels fly away.
It's going to be a weird era to discuss and break down, because obviously there's a bunch of plot threads set up, like the appearance of Susan, or the Doctor's darker side seen in the Interstellar Song Contest, which ultimately have yet to actually go anywhere. I did release a couple of videos talking about the possible leaks of the original ending, in which it would be revealed that Poppy, baby Poppy, is in fact Susan's mother, so you can go and check those videos out if you want more context on that. But yeah, despite this never being the plan, we have the entire of the 15th Doctor's era to review and break down, so let's stop waffling. If you're new here, please feel free to subscribe. A lot of you watching aren't subscribed, so I'd really appreciate it. Make sure you hit the notification bell. You can check me out on Patreon if that's your kind of thing. We'll stop rambling and we'll just dive straight in. Right back to the Giggle in 2023. We have this handy little tier list, which I will link in the description if you want to play along at home. Imagine this is some sort of cheesy game show. Speaking of cheesy, I've got to give a quick shout out to Ben Saunders over on Twitter. I said in a live stream the first person to carve Omega out of a block of cheese would get a shout out, so here you go, Ben. Absolutely marvellous. Do your rankings, and if you want to post them on Instagram or tag them on Twitter, I'll give them a look. I'm always intrigued to hear people's opinions. But yeah, I said we'd begin at the Giggle. The Giggle isn't actually on this list for some reason, probably because it's technically a 14th Doctor episode, but I'm going to discuss it because it's Ncuti Gatwa's first appearance. You can't not. Now, the Giggle as an episode is a weird one for me, because I simultaneously absolutely adore parts of it, but also, there's something about, I mean, it's become infamous if you watch our podcast, but the ending scene in the TARDIS with the 2 Doctors and Donna, I just can't get on board with. It feels like just show don't tell. Well, no, it's the opposite of show don't tell. They're just telling you stuff. They're like, oh, remember Mavic Chen? No. No, honestly, I don't. I haven't seen that episode of Classic Who, and I'm willing to bet 90% of you watching this video won't have... Right, comment down below if you know who Mavic Chen is. I know there's a large portion of you out there who do, okay? And shout out to you. I knew him by name, but shoving that, the gods of Ragnarok, Adric, look, I love Adric. Most of you watching this video probably love Adric, as they say in the scene, but to a general audience, they're going to be sat there going, what? Who are we talking about? And it's okay sometimes in a 60th anniversary special. It's an anniversary, for crying out loud. Like, you've got to be allowed to look to the past. But the way they did it in the Toymakers Puppet Show, 10 out of 10. Peak stuff right there. That's how you look at the past. And also, it explains it to the general audience in a fun, interesting, and visual way. I can't quite get my head around the fact that they are literally just stood in the TARDIS going, yeah, Sarah Jane is gone, can you believe that? That's also, that's the thing, because this video is talking about the 15th Doctor. Ncuti's performance, right, we'll start with the positives. The start of the Giggle. His first appearance is, unironically, probably the strongest ever first appearance of a Doctor. And I don't say that lightly. His first moments, he is so immediately the Doctor, it's genuinely insane. I remember, like, the whole bi-generation thing had kind of leaked. A bunch of people knew it was going to happen. I was sat there going, oh my god, they actually have done that. But I was completely sold on it, because Ncuti was so good in those first moments. The whole, like, when he's clapping his hands, he's like, myth, 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 bi-generation, all of that jazz, genuinely peak Doctor Who right there. Like, it was flawless. But you have that in the Giggle, which, like, I'd give it 10 out of 10, genuinely banging stuff. But then you have that contrasted with Sarah Jane is gone, can you believe that? And that whole scene in the TARDIS just feels weird. Ncuti's Doctor vibes, maybe it's because they haven't quite worked out how to write his Doctor yet, but there's just something that feels weird. Like, I can't describe it. And I mean, David Tennant as well, he's pulling like a bizarre face, which I have memed to no end on this channel. But yeah, the Giggle's a mixed bag, because you get such a strong intro for 15, but then you get a really middling, like, not sour taste, but it just doesn't hit that scene in the TARDIS. However, it does go up in my ranks, because 15's theme, this is the first time we hear it played at the end, but just before it says, like, Destination Christmas, and he's running around the console, he's pushing all those levers, pulling all the buttons, or pulling the levers and pushing the buttons, each to their own. But that sequence is so good that if it were here to put on the list, I'd put it in A tier for Ncuti. This is in terms of the 15th Doctor's era. The story as a whole, I'd also probably put in A tier, to be honest. It's really fun. It's really good. The 60th, yeah, it delivered. It was a strong start. Not perfect, though, but a strong start. And I love the idea that, and I think it's the strongest thing with 15, which they didn't always play into, but he's the sort of emotional Doctor. He's the post-therapy Doctor. Like, this guy is happy to say I love you. Like, if he was on the beach with Rose Tyler, he'd have said it quickly and proudly, and she'd have known it. There wouldn't have been that sort of Doctor angst. And I kind of love that. I kind of love that going into the 2020s, when the world is in such like a... It's in a rubbish place, let's be honest. Like, America's in turmoil, England's in turmoil, everywhere's in turmoil. Like, the world is just not doing great at the moment. And Russell did talk a lot about, like, the current political state of the world's a mess, so we want to make a show that's fun, that's fresh, that's engaging, which is probably where the idea for Space Babies came from, but we'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, I appreciate the idea, and I love the idea that the 15th Doctor is this new Doctor, full of life, full of energy, and yeah, he's a Doctor for the 2020s, new vibes, new actor. I was on board. At the Giggle, I was sold. Ncuti Gatwa, he can deliver this role. So I'd put the Giggle in A tier, but then we get to our first that's actually properly on this tier list, The Church on Ruby Road. Now, I have heard from various places that apparently the script for this episode read 10 times better than the final product. So, like, cast and crew who were working on it, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it read better on the page. and before certain cuts and rewrites. Originally, for example, like one of the weird things with this episode, I've always thought that the sort of start of the third act has really weird pacing, and it's all just in that sort of Sunday's apartment. Like they don't really leave it, and it feels a bit contained. The stakes don't feel high enough. Originally, it had to be cut for budgetary reasons, but they did do the previs of the sequence. The Goblin King was actually going to teleport into the Sunday's house and sort of crash his way through the walls, and Ruby's whole thing with luck was going to come out to the forefront when she has these lottery tickets, which apparently her mum gets every Christmas, and she keeps scratching them until she gets good luck. And once she gets good luck, it pushes the Goblin King back until she wins something when it sends him back to the ship, because the whole thing runs on luck. It's the language of luck, which that's such a cool idea. That would be such a cool sequence. But as I say, we can't judge the script here. From what I've heard, the script's a 10 out of 10. What was delivered by Russell, brilliant opener. I mean, Stephen Moffat even said in interviews, like, he read the script for The Church on Ruby Road before, like, when Russell was like, oh, I'll come back and do Boom, and he said it's one of the best introductions to a Doctor and Companion ever, which I can see, to be honest. It is a very strong story. It does nicely establish the Doctor. There were also reshoots done, which were asked for by Disney. I mean, this is going to be a theme throughout this video, I imagine, of did Disney interfere with the 15th Doctor's era too much? I personally don't think they did. And I do quite like the change they made to The Church on Ruby Road, which is the scene with the policeman, where the big snowman falls on top of the Doctor, he pops its head off and he, like, struts out and says to the policeman, like, oh yeah, you're gonna get married, and she'll say yes. And it's very Christmassy, very nice, and very Doctor-y. Like, I do think, though, it does wiggle the pacing around a little bit. Like, the slow introduction to the Doctor's quite nice, but then also it does establish him more as the Doctor. I'm in two minds about it. Now, obviously as well, this is the episode with the infamous singing goblins. A lot of people worry and say that this was sort of like the death, like this is when the general public would have turned off, but maybe controversially, I don't know, but I think this wasn't too much. We'll discuss Space Babies and the Devil's Chord in a moment, but I think for the general public tuning in, I can speak from experience here. My cousin, who's got like a younger son, she and her husband started watching this episode because it was Christmas Day. They used to watch Doctor Who years and years ago. They started watching it and really enjoyed it. They were like, it was completely new, it was completely fresh, but you know what, I was on board for it. The problem is, it didn't captivate them enough that they'd be there for Space Babies when that eventually happened. And I mean, we'll talk about it now, but the original plan was Church on Ruby Road, then the next week Space Babies, then weekly episodes from there, which I can't lie, makes a million times more sense, because I think the biggest issue I keep talking about Space Babies and we're not there yet, but the biggest issue with this entire era, and I genuinely think what almost doomed it come to such a quick conclusion before it should have done, is starting the season with the Space Babies and Devil's Chord. I think they're too experimental, too wacky, and on the surface, they are written well, but on the surface, people just tune out because they're like, it's a kid's show, that's for kids, or that's not for me, which I think really did detriment Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor going forward in the eyes of the general public. But let's finish our review on Church on Ruby Road first. I'm going to put it in A tier. It's not great, okay? It's not peak. And if the Goblin King scene was in there, I think that would make it a lot better. It would just spice up the middle, give it a little bit more pizzazz and budget. Also, I do have one really minor complaint, one directorial complaint, which is just petty of me, and maybe they didn't have time, but I can never, it really bugs me when I watch, because it's directed quite nicely, there's a lot of close-ups, it feels quite Jodie era-esque, but you get this big crane shot, where it's like panning down to see Ruby getting off the bus, and the camera clearly like hits something, and just wobbles. Like, there's a camera wobble. We've been promised the biggest budget Doctor Who of all time, and there's a camera wobble in episode 1. Like, where, like, I know it's not that deep, and I know they were probably pushed for time, and it is human error. No production is perfect. But, like, it always really draws me out of the episode, and it'll probably do that for you now. I've probably ruined this episode for a lot of people. No, I'm not sorry. But yeah, overall, Church on Ruby Road, solid start to the era. Not perfect, but I think if the series had continued as it was supposed to from there, it would have had a much bigger chance at like bringing in the audience. But yeah, let's move on to Space Babies. Okay, this is a controversial one. A lot of people absolutely despise this episode, and I don't. Okay, it's fun. It's good fun, but it's just that. I did get to see this episode early at like a screening thing, and the main takeaway I had, I remember coming out of the screening slightly confused because like that really, it doesn't feel like an episode 1. Which obviously it's kind of not written to be. Like it's supposed to be directly after the Church on Ruby Road, which it makes more sense in that case, but there's something bizarre about it. But the main takeaway I had was just how insanely good Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson were in that episode. Their chemistry was peak. Like, I genuinely did believe at that point. I don't think their dynamic gets better, to be honest, from this point onwards. This is the peak of 15 and Ruby. Like, you can really see how they make each other tick and how they're going to be good friends, and I'm like gearing up. It's like the Ninth Doctor and Rose. It's like, oh, they're going to go somewhere. There's going to be a major argument, but their friendship's going to pull them through. They clearly care for each other. The Doctor's got trauma. She's got trauma. Let's see where they go. And it just sadly never really develops further than this point. I think their dynamic in Space Babies is so good. Like, it feels like a Doctor and Companion pairing for the ages, which sadly whimpers out as the season goes on, which is definitely not their fault. It's not the fault of the performers. And I think it's also just the production troubles surrounding this era are utterly bizarre, because the fact that you go Space Babies, Devil's Chord, boom. For those 3 episodes, you get the Doctor and Ruby displaying their like dynamic. They're growing, they're learning, but then 73 yards, you've got no Ncuti Gatwa, because obviously he was off filming Sex Education. Dot and Bubble, you don't see them interact really at all. Rogue, they're both doing their own separate things. And then it's the finale. And then she leaves. Like, we had no time with this companion. We basically had 4 episodes in a row, and then she's gone. And we'll come to it when we discuss the Devil's Chord in a moment, but what on earth were they playing at when they did a 6-month time jump? Like, completely stalling and ruining the dynamic that the Doctor and Ruby had. It's utterly bizarre. It's one of the most bizarre choices in Doctor Who history. And Russell tried to explain it as like, oh, it's explaining like Pyramids of Mars with Sarah Jane, where she leaves for 6 months. No, I don't care. General audience, you don't get to see the Doctor and Ruby grow. It's such a bizarre choice. But their dynamic in Space Babies works really well. I can't lie. I'm on board with it. I like it. It's fun. The plot is just fine. It's fine. It's not bad. It's not good. I think, yeah, that's my review of the episode. But in terms of like the context, the historical and cultural context, this episode killed this era, in my opinion. Because I know, like, my family are always a good... They're a casual audience. You can kind of see what a lot of people in the general public are thinking by the way my grandparents and my parents and my siblings or my cousins, whoever, react to Doctor Who. Every single one of them, because obviously Space Babies and Devil's Chord dropped at the same time. They were both like, oh, well, that felt like very fresh, very different. I don't know if it's for me, though. It feels maybe a bit childish, a bit pantomime-y, like talking babies, and that's completely understandable. Talking Babies is your first episode? Like, I just can't quite get my head round it. Like, Rose from 2005, The 11th Hour from 2010 work as introductory episodes so completely well because it's the real world. It's it feels real, it feels tangible, and I know technically Church on Ruby Road is episode 1 as to the original plan, but as I say, contextually there was a 5-month gap in between Church on Ruby Road and Space Babies, and Space Babies is really not a good episode 1. Like, I don't think, if you've never seen Doctor Who before as well, and you've only just seen singing goblins, then talking babies, you just think, okay, this is for kids. I appreciate it's well made, it looks great, nice stuff, I'm not going to watch. And I think that happened to a dangerous amount of people. And if you lose goodwill, like, it's not Ncuti Gatwa's fault as a performer, but he is the face of the show. So are those people that tuned in to see talking babies and singing goblins and like Maestro giving a relatively, if you'll excuse the pun, one-note performance? Don't get me wrong, Jinx Monsoon is fantastic, but there's not much range, and I don't think that's Jinx Monsoon's fault. I think that's maybe the script as well. Like, there's just no range to it. And I think those 3 episodes people were like, yeah, this show's not for me. And it's such a shame because it does get good, and Doctor Who should be doing experimental things. I'd be happy. Like the Devil's Chord, we'll talk about the Devil's Chord in a second, but they're good in principle, and I like Doctor Who experimenting, but they needed a really firm foundation to start this new era, and I just don't think they delivered that, which is such a shame because they all put, like, it's so good. I love the behind the scenes stuff, and I don't mean any ill will to anyone who worked on it, like, especially like Russell and that lot get so much hate and people are so harsh about it online. Everyone's human, everyone can make mistakes. They've delivered a lot of good stuff here, so I think it's harsh. I am going to put Space Babies in C. Not because of the quality of the episode, but as I say, it was almost an impossible task to get a really strong introduction when you've got Rose and the 11th Hour and all of these big contenders, and I think fundamentally it didn't deliver in that way, which is kind of why 15 ended up leaving early, because if Space Babies had been a roaring success, if The Devil's Chord had been a roaring success, if Church on Ruby Road had been a roaring success, Disney would have recommissioned quicker, Ncuti wouldn't have felt like he needed to leave to get other work, so we'd probably be having seasons 3 and 4 with the 15th Doctor, which is just such a shame. But yeah, I'm going to have to put it in C for that reason. Okay, The Devil's Chord. I kind of given my thoughts on it, to be honest. It's fun. It's a very, very strong idea. Like, a perfect plot. And I think the casting of Jinx Monsoon is, like, semi-genius. Like, that's really neat. Really cool. I like the look of it. I love the idea of the Pantheon as well. Obviously, we'll explore more of the Pantheon. I think the goblins in the novelisation of Church on Ruby Road are apparently part of the legions sent by the Toymaker. They're not part of the Pantheon, but they're sort of the, not gods of chaos, but, I don't know, goblins of chaos. They're all linked somehow, which I do think is a problem because the Pantheon doesn't have clear rules or logic. It's kind of just whatever the story requires it to be. I'd prefer it was less of a story function and more like having concrete rules, to be honest. But The Devil's Chord has a lot of good stuff. Obviously, we've discussed how enraging it is that we pick up 6 months after the events of Space Babies. We don't get to see the Doctor and Ruby develop their dynamic. They're just besties already, which is silly. But yeah, the setting's good. The idea of the Beatles not having music and nobody having music, that leading to destruction to feed this hungry god who's the child of the Toymaker, that's so much fun. And as I say, like, Jinx Monsoon delivers a good performance, but there's no, like, for example, when you've got the Toymaker, you get the big, over-the-top moments, but you also get the softer, quieter moments. The John Sim Master. You get your big, camp, evil villain moments, and you get your quiet, genuine drama moments. Whereas with Maestro, probably because I think The Devil's Chord could have been a 2-parter, like part 1 ending when they arrive in London and it's destroyed. But yeah, the Maestro is a good villain in principle, but I don't think fully delivers. Also, There's always a twist at the end, right? I don't even mind the song, sure, people will rinse it to no end, but why on earth is it at the end of the episode? Why is that not what defeats Maestro? Like, I just think it's so utterly bizarre. Like, there's such small changes which make these episodes 10 times better, in my opinion. Obviously, this is just my opinion, so take it with a pinch of salt. No pun intended. God's salt. I'll show myself out. But, like, imagine how much more effective it would be if they all had to sing and dance, or they were all made to sing and dance by Maestro, or to defeat Maestro. Like, it almost feels like an epilogue to the episode, which is just bizarre. Also, like, I get it's fun and it's really not that deep, but there's not always a twist at the end of a Doctor Who episode. Often, there's quite simple explanations and relatively simple outcomes. What do you mean there's always a twist? Like, if this was Inside Number 9, I'd be like, yeah, there is always a twist. But there's not with Doctor Who. It's a bizarre song, and half the lyrics don't mean anything anyway. Like, yeah. And the defeating of Maestro by literally just finding the Devil's Chord and, like, playing the Beatles, playing the piano. Like, the ideas are really nice, and, like, the importance of music. And you can also read it in a way as, like, a meta-commentary on it, especially at the time. The Tory government at the time were defunding the arts, and, like, those adverts that Rishi Sunak, evil man, Rishi Sunak put out saying, like, Fatima's next job could be in cyber, and it was like a ballet dancer taking off their shoes, which, like, oh, we're not going to get too political here, but point is, the Tory government were trying to steal music, steal art, take it away from people, and it leads to a lack of culture, and it leads to a, like, depressing reality for people, which is exactly what the Devil's Chord, in a way, is, like, metaphorical of. Like, Maestro's taking music for her own. She's the Beatles, you can't be musicians, go and get a real job, don't be silly. But imagine a world without the Beatles. Like, nuclear war. Nuclear war. So yeah, it's got a lot of really strong ideas. I just think, once again, maybe it's a product of rewrites or time constraints or budget constraints, but it just doesn't fully deliver on the premise. And I do think it also isn't a strong enough episode 2, because it doesn't build on such a fantastic dynamic that 15 and Ruby have in Space Babies and the Church on Ruby Road. Like, their dynamic, I don't know, it doesn't feel as good here, so I am going to have to leave it in C. It feels harsh. Maybe I should put it up in B. But no, I'm just being honest. I'm being honest. I don't mind it. I don't hate it. I mean, you've got to remember, I genuinely, there isn't an episode here that I actually despise. Genuinely. Like, I know there's a lot of people out there that hate certain episodes, but I will give the 15th Doctor's era that. There is not a single episode that I genuinely can't watch. One that I'm like, oh, that's the worst thing ever. They're all either mid or very good or good. We'll carry on with the list, but yeah. Next we have Boom, written by Stephen Moffat, who is probably my favourite showrunner. I mean, well, no, favourite writer. Russell's the best showrunner, in my opinion. His first era showrun brilliantly. He made it the success that it... He made it stick around to this day. For all the people that complain that, like, oh, Russell, you killed Doctor Who, you wouldn't have current Doctor Who without that man. Like, Russell's contribution to Doctor Who should never be undermined. But yeah, Boom sees the return of Stephen Moffat, and I do actually really love this episode. I really love this script, probably because, for those of you who know this channel, it's no surprise to hear, Capaldi is my favourite Doctor. Capaldi and Clara is one of my favourite Doctor companion combinations, and quite frankly, Boom is a Capaldi and Clara episode played with Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson. Like, Ruby is basically written to be Clara, and the Doctor is basically the 12th Doctor. And that's probably why I like it so much. Ncuti as the Doctor here feels a lot more doctory. Like, the Devil's Chord, I don't think he's that doctory. Like, the crying as well. Oh, the crying. And look, right, there's always a couple of you in the comments. I am aware men are allowed to cry, okay? I am an advocate. Men should express their emotions. Men should cry. I'm here for that, 100%, especially on TV. We need role models like the Doctor that do cry and aren't ashamed of it. The whole man-up thing, bad, outdated, get rid. But every episode completely and utterly undermines the stakes of when he does cry, okay? I just want that to be clear. I don't have beef with the Doctor crying. The Doctor should cry, but don't clip me out of context and don't go, I can't believe the confused Adipose said that men shouldn't cry. I didn't say that, did I? I just didn't. I literally didn't, okay? If I did, I did, but I didn't, so I didn't. Rant over. But yeah, Boom, he feels very much Doctor-like. It's a very fun plot. I mean, we have Belinda crop up. It's not technically Belinda, it's Mundy Flynn. But yeah, it's fun, it's nice. The landmine idea is such a solid concept. Like, I think what you've got to give season 1 credit for is every episode's like elevator pitch is 10 out of 10. Like, the Doctor stands on a landmine, has to stay there till the end of the episode. It sounds boring, but it's also, as soon as you start thinking about the possibilities, the character work and the dynamics, because I'd argue the most important part of any show is always the characters and their emotions. Boom, it's excellent for that. Really fun, really strong start. I think, though, maybe it's a little bit silly that Ruby dies that quickly in. Like, we've only just got to know her. I feel like the whole season needs longer. Like, Boom should have come later in the season. But I mean, it's a strong episode. It's good fun. It's very Stephen Moffat. You've got your puns. You've got your innuendos. You've got your fatherhood stuff. But overall, it's good fun. This is the part where you really start to get the Susan Twist mystery unravelling, because she plays all the ambulances. But yeah, it's good fun. I do think, though, season 1 has this weird thing with, like, they were sort of flexing, like, oh, we've got a Disney budget before the episodes came out, but you can't see it as much on screen, I don't think. Now, what I mean by this is no offence to the production team, who are obviously doing a great job, but, like, you're in Wales, right? Why are you building a quarry in a studio? Like, go to one. I'm a no-budget manager, so maybe that's a silly suggestion, but, like, just go to a quarry. You've built a quarry in a studio and then put, like, really expensive paneling light things to do the CGI sky, or like the computer-generated sky that's actually there on set, like the volume, effectively. You could get a real sky if you went to a quarry. Like, I don't know. The utilisation of the budget feels a bit bizarre, but Boom is a strong episode. I'm going to put it in A tier. It's not the best of the best, but it's certainly well written. It's good fun. Ncuti's on his A game as the Doctor, and I think this is a return to conventional Doctor Who. And I also do think this may be, as good as it is, impacted people's enjoyment of the 15th Doctor's era from, like, a general public perspective, because you have 3 very sort of... Well, Church on Ruby Road isn't too experimental, but it's a different tone. Then you've got 2 incredibly experimental episodes. Then this is like your bread and butter Doctor Who. This is Stephen Moffat all over it. It literally would fit in Series 8, Series 9 or Series 10, even Series 7. You could literally just drop it in anywhere and it would feel right. Like, the tone of it is just quintessential Doctor Who, which is nice, but also I feel like it needs new. Like, the series at this point has done something relatively fresh and new, then things that are too new, now it's not new enough. Oh, to be a Doctor Who fan is to just complain, isn't it? How am I complaining about it being new but not new enough but too new? But you know what I mean, though, surely. Like, I don't know. Let's move on to 73 Yards, because I've got a controversial take on this one. I didn't enjoy it that much when I watched it for the first time, I shan't lie. I think Ncuti Gatwa's absence is really felt. I really wish we got more of his Doctor, but I understand the production troubles behind that. Millie Gibson does deliver a killer performance, and as time's gone on, I don't dislike this one as much as I initially did on first watch. It was sort of... This episode was hyped up at the time in the press and everything to be like, Russell said it's like, this is the proudest I've ever been of a script I've written. And I was like, oh my god, okay, I am sat. My seatbelt is on. We're going on a great journey here. And then the start's strong, but it's sort of the Roger Ap Williamson thing. Just, I don't care. Like, I don't know why. I think it sort of loses it. I like the Welsh folk horror elements. Those are really strong. And I think I did a video ranking, like, the creepiest Doctor Who monsters. And The Watcher and The Woman from 73 Yards, I think they're in the #1 spot. Because that is such a good idea. 10 out of 10 idea. You don't know why or who or what, but a woman is watching from 73 yards. The entire episode is kind of vibes-based. From a vibes-based perspective, it's a 12 out of 10. That's peak fiction. That's peak creepy, scary, unnerving Doctor Who. And as I say, from the vibes alone, 10 out of 10, brilliant. But the plot mechanics are just, what happens at the end? It's just waffle. Like, I don't care about Roger Ap William. He feels a little bit too generic. He's like, oh, us Welsh people have been put under the rug, so I'm going to blow up the world. Like, really? Really? It feels like a cartoon motive. Like, I don't know, I just don't buy him that much. And I think the biggest problem with this whole series is all of it needs more time to breathe. They've got some really, really good concepts, but they're just hampered by not having the room, time, or space to actually breathe. So 73 yards, I'm going to put it in B. Maybe A. No, B. B. I'm sorry. I love the idea. And it's also 10 out of 10 plot twist that Ruby is the woman at the end. Like, that works really well, but I was really bothered on initial watch that it didn't make sense. Like, why is Ruby how is Ruby the woman? How does that work? But I can't lie, that was, now that time's gone on, and looking at it, because you're supposed to watch it from like a ghost story perspective. It's almost like an episode of Goosebumps, or what's it, Inside Number 9? Oh no, The Twilight Zone. That's what I'm thinking of. This is exactly like an episode of The Twilight Zone. Can you not just imagine it? Like, in its old like black and white form from the 60s or whatever it was. This is Doctor Who does The Twilight Zone. And I can't lie, from that perspective it delivers. I'm going to move it up to A. You know what? I'm a stubborn Doctor Who fan. I was wanting an explanation. I was wanting like something in, you know, in Turn Left when they flip the beetle over and the Doctor's like, oh yes, this is one of the Tricksters Brigade. I was wanting that. But when you actually view it from the perspective of how it's meant to be viewed, like a ghost story, Twilight Zone-esque thing, it's never meant to be explained. It's a vibes-based episode, so for that, yeah, A tier. It's close to S tier, it's such a good concept, and I have come to appreciate it a lot more as the years have gone on. Sequence where Ruby's in the train and she's looking out the window and the woman's like cropping up everywhere. Peak Doctor Who, really good stuff. But let's move on. So that was Doctor Who Does The Twilight Zone. We're now on Doctor Who Does Black Mirror. Dot and Bubble is a very interesting episode. A lot of people give it a lot of praise, but I can't lie, I don't like it that much until the ending. When Lindsay Pepperbean and Ricky September get into those underground pipe things, and she ends up letting Ricky die, and then just be like Planet of the White Racists. Like, that is such an insane twist. Like, because there were so many points in the episode, because I watched it with my housemates, you can go back and watch my review if you want, where I was like, that's not, surely they didn't mean to write that in the script. Like, the intent of that, oh, that's bad. Like, there were loads of little things. Like, Lindsay says at one point something, like, she just completely ignores the Doctor and only listens to Ruby. And I remember being sat there like, oh, this isn't, surely BBC, what have you done? Like, this is a misstep. Maybe that wasn't the intent, but... And no, by the time you get to the end of the episode, it is actually... They are just a bunch of racists. And I've seen the twist work in varying different degrees for different people. Some people say they didn't pick up on it at all, which I kind of find hard to believe, because there's so many, like, microaggressions from Lindsay. As soon as the Doctor starts speaking, he's swiped away. And I think that is fantastic, like, political messaging for, like, TikTok and stuff, because it's not bashing you around the head, it's not too on the nose. Like, you have this absurdist scene where she's brushing her teeth, and it's effectively TikTok that she's watching. It's like Ricky September dancing to that song from the 60s about bikinis or whatever, and she's, like, sort of swiping through people, and when someone in need that doesn't fit her perfect sort of view of the world pops up and goes, like, I need to help you, Lindsay, she just swipes away and ignores as the monster gets ever closer. And I do think it's clever. It's very reflective of the time we're living in. It's very zeitgeist, if you'll excuse the use of that pretentious word. No, it's a strong episode. I just don't have that much fun watching it, and I think it doesn't have very much rewatchability either. The twist is 10 out of 10. When you watch that for the first time, it is genuinely a shocker. It's like, oh my god, like, wild. And Ncuti's performance, that, fun fact, was his first day on set, but 10 out of 10. I think that might be one of his best scenes of anything ever that I've seen him in. Like, it's so good, and the scream he lets out is just, heart-wrenching. And the Doctor not knowing what to do because he can't do the one thing the Doctor always does because these people are ignorant. Like, it's crazy stuff. Really hard-hitting, really solid. I'm going to put the episode in B. I've given it a lot of praise there, but as I say, I think the ending's what really elevates it. The rest of it is just fine. Like, it's a fun adventure story, it's fine. I think you can really tell that Ncuti and Millie are reading off auto cues for the other parts of the episodes. I just don't buy either of them. Like, they're not bad performances, but it feels rushed. Like, it doesn't feel like they've had much time to read and break down the lines. It feels like they've been given the lines and then just splurted them out, which is a big shame. But yeah, overall, it's strong. And Callie Cook, I believe is the actress's name. She was in another BBC series called, I think it's Cheaters, right, I think that's what it's called. But she's so good in that, and she's so good in this, banger performance. Yeah, production design as well, really solid, really strong. Yeah, it deserves B. I'd be tempted to put it in A if the first 35 minutes were as good as the ending, it would be an S. But yeah, it's going to stay in B. Now we've got Rogue, which feels like straight out of 2007 Doctor Who, but with a nice, fresh, like, seasoning of 2024, which is probably a weird way to describe it, but do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like a very generic Doctor Who episode, but it's got a little sprinkling of 2024 in. This is our first, that's actually mad, I only just noticed by looking at this, that's our first and only new writer of 2024, or writers. I think Kate Herron and Bryony Redman are their names. They did, I think, directed Loki or something. But yeah, it's a strong episode. It's not the best ever. Jonathan Groff and Ncuti Gatwa's performances are really nice. And once again, it majorly suffers from the biggest problem of this era, is nothing's given time to breathe. Like, when Rogue eventually comes back in Wishworld, spoilers by the way, it just doesn't hit because they only knew each other for one night. Like, I really like the idea, to be fair, that we'll judge this story on its own. I love the idea that the Doctor sort of meets this person who he'd clearly fall in love with if they spent years together. Well, not years, but like a prolonged period of time together. But the tragedy of it is they only get one night together. And I think that's kind of beautiful, kind of nice. Ncuti's popping off. Him and Groff are such a good pairing. As I said, though, it's a shame the Doctor and Ruby are sort of split for this entire episode. Like, it is, yeah, we need more of them together. There is that really lovely scene at the end, though, where the Doctor, like, after Rogue sacrifices himself to save Ruby, and he's lost in that hell dimension. And Ruby sits down with the Doctor, and she's like, look, like, you don't have to pretend you're okay. And he gets up and he's like, no, moving on, I'm okay, I'm the Doctor, I'm always okay. And she's like, Doctor, just stop. And she gives him a big hug. The only thing is, it kind of goes back on the characterisation that I was saying I loved at the start of this. Like, he's the emotional Doctor, he's not the repressed Doctor, he's not repressing all of his emotions, he's living them. Apart from in Rogue, for some reason. I do just think 15's characterisation is sort of messed around. It gets a lot more consistent and better in season 2, but I think, yeah, like, it's probably because the writers didn't know about the bi-generation, which is a bit of an oversight. I mean, a big problem with Ruby as a companion as well. Her and the Doctor never fight. Why? Like, 9 and Rose are peak pairing, Clara and 12 are peak pairing, Bill and 12 are a peak pairing, because they yell at each other. If you're going on adventures in time and space with someone who's basically a stranger, you will end up beefing with him or her. You will shout, you will argue, you will disagree. Donna and the Doctor, Fires of Pompeii, one of the best Doctor Who episodes, like one-off Doctor Who episodes that is, because She yells at him. She's like, "No, Doctor, you're going to go back. You are not going to leave." And it's so emotional, and it builds their dynamic, and it makes them feel they just feel real. But yeah, you never get that with Ruby and the Doctor. And even like Stephen Moffat said in an interview, I think with Doctor Who magazine, he's like, Russell said Ruby is like, she's not one of your quirky companions. She's your generic companion. She's your Rose. She's your Amy. I fundamentally... Look, Russell's a genius, who am I to say, but I disagree with that as a statement to a writer. You should never just go, this character's like your generic character. What do you mean your generic character? There's got to be something more interesting about Ruby than just she's your generic companion. Like, I just think that's a misfire of a... Yeah, there's a lot of misfire bits in this season. It's a weird mixed bag. The villains, the Cholder in this episode, fine, sure. Bird people, they look cool. Fine. I don't mind them either way. Could have been a Zygon story, but then do you need that much fan service? Probably not. They fit the episode. But right, cosplay to death. That's fun. It's nice. But also they're technically not cosplaying. Is it called LARPing? I think that's the... Look, this is a channel watched by a bunch of nerds like myself, so you'll be able to tell me in the comments. I think it's called LARPing, where it's like, yeah, live action fantasy role play. Is that what it's called? Wait, yeah, point is, that's pedantic, nerdy, waffle. The episode's fine. I'm going to put it in a B or A, B or A, A or B, that is the question. To be or not to be. It's going in A. Yeah, I don't know if I'm happy with that. Can we have a category in between A and B? Because it's good. No, it's going in B. You know what? I'm feeling miserable. It is a strong episode. And yeah, S tier is very difficult to reach, as you could probably imagine by now. But yeah, it's a solid start to the Dr. Rogue's romance. It's just a shame that it is also the end. Now, on to our first returning villain, Sutek, the god of death. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dearie, dearie, dear. Right, we'll begin at the beginning of this episode, okay? There was so much hype going in. Who's Susan Twist? What are these mysteries? Russell's wishes of generating content fulfilled. Perfect. Marvellous. But this episode literally just starts out of nowhere. The Doctor just rocks up to Unit and he's like, the plot requires us to figure out... Look, Kate Stewart, it's the season finale. The plot requires us to find out who Susan Triad is, so let's do it. And while we're here, Kate Stewart, the plot also requires us to figure out who Millie's mum is, because Millie Gibson wants to leave the show now. Who is she, Kate Stewart? Which is just... Why is that the start of the episode? Like, it feels so rushed and not organic, and I ask why. I do actually know why. It's because in the original draft, I mean, Russell said it in Doctor Who magazine years ago, Episode 7 opens with the Roswell incident in America. Big spaceship crashes down, whatever. They were going to be there, they were going to be in America, and then they spot Susan Twist, and the Doctor's like, okay, I've seen her face before. Ruby's like, oh, I've seen her face before. We've both seen her face before. Who is she? What is she? Let's go and find out. And you know what? That's a much more organic, natural, realistic feeling kick-off to the episode than just arriving in Unit, but that was budgetary reasons, that got slashed and cut. It's just weird. They've got such a big budget, but they're still suffering big budgetary problems. Come on, can we not be in a recession anymore? Can we go back to the early 2000s where everyone has loads of money? Please. But enough about the depressing state of the real world. Legend of Ruby Sunday starts off relatively weak, but I will say it is a masterclass, an absolute masterclass in building tension. That Sutek reveal, you've seen the clip of our reaction to that, the infamous clip on this channel, because we all met up and watched it together. Elise from the podcast literally fell off her chair. She actually fell off her chair. Everyone's screaming, shouting, hype moment when Sutek comes back, because the episode is peak and genuinely brilliant at building to that reveal. You get loads of little clues, you get a sort of misdirect of it's the Beast, you get a misdirect of a brief moment where they play the Masters theme, and it's like, who's the villain, who's the villain, who's the villain? The only thing I will say though, Sutek wouldn't do this. Like, the man we met, or the dog we met, I guess, in Pyramids of Mars. There's literally a line from Sutekh where he's like, we have no time for this, or I don't play games, or I can't remember what it is. But suddenly, Sutekh is now playing games. He's not only playing games, he's making anagrams. He's, like, how does this work? This is what I get with the Pantheon. Like, is Sutekh sat in a Pantheon board meeting going like, guys, I've had the best evil plan idea ever. I'm going to make a woman called Susan with a tech company, and I'm going to do a big gotcha on the Doctor. Ha 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 ha. Why on a... What? Like, who did that? Sutekh? Did Sutekh make the animations for all of those screens? But at the same time as those pedantic complaints, what a reveal. What a reveal. Edge of my seat stuff, in utter shock. Oh my god, he's back. Sure, he's a dog. The concept art was better than the final product. I don't want to fault the CGI teams. It looked really good for what it was, but why was he a big dog? Like, make him more of like a Egyptian Sphinx type thing. Not a Sphinx. You know what I'm saying. Also, while we're here, I'm sorry, the Sphinx, the Vlinx, did nobody else think that that was going to come into play? Like, the Vlinx was going to turn out to be evil and working for Sutekh, because the Vlinx is literally useless. Like, he does nothing but sit there and go like, ooh, here's some information. It felt like a missed opportunity. But yeah, I can't lie. Legend of Ruby Sunday, I am actually going to put in A tier. B to A, B, A, B, B, A. It's staying in A because it is such a fun experience to watch. Like, it's one of those memories I'm not going to forget. Like, watching that in a room full of Doctor Who fans and the hype when Sutekh came back. 10 out of 10. Like, it's as I say, it's a masterclass in building of tension. You also get a lot like of character stuff starting to bleed through. Like, Ruby is actually doing something for once. And I mean, Rose Noble... Well, like, she needs more to do. Like, she just stands around with a pad, and it feels like, I don't know, either have this character in the show or don't. Don't just half-arse it. Like, you either have Rose as a character or you don't. You don't just sort of leave her to the wayside. But the idea of the time window, all of that stuff, the build-up, as I say, peak, Legend of Ruby Sunday, it's genuinely a strong episode. It's not the best, it's not a 10 out of 10, but it's a strong episode. I don't like the start, but as I say, it's a product of rewrites. I'll give you a little bit of benefit of the doubt. And then we get to the Empire of Death. Okay, we'll put that there. And moving on swiftly. A Joy to the World. No, we will discuss the Empire of Death briefly. It just doesn't hit, does it? Like, you can't put Sutekh on a leash. Like, what were you thinking? And if you've read the original draft of the script, which is available for free on the BBC Script website, they were going to play There's Always a Twist. The Doctor, they literally filmed it, but cut it, thank God. The Doctor puts a penny in the jukebox, plays There's Always a Twist, it becomes an operatic version of There's Always a Twist, as the Doctor gives his big speech to Sutekh. What? Like, I don't understand. Because there's really good elements, okay? I don't want to just be harsh, I don't want to be just slating, oh, I've made the screen run around there. I don't want to just slate the episode, okay? Because it's not terrible. And I think the start's actually quite good. I feel like maybe they should have actually just killed off Kate Stewart or something. I don't want Kate Stewart to die, but Doctor Who has a big problem with steaks. Not as in the food. I'm sure medium rare or whatever's fine. That wasn't even a joke. That was just really bad. I might cut that. I'm going to leave it in so that you can all see the process that goes into the comedy behind these videos, because that was, moving back to the episode. I can't even remember what I was saying. Empire of Death. It's got nice moments. There's nice ideas. There's concepts of a plan, as a wise man once said. There's concepts of a plan, but it just doesn't deliver. We don't get explanations for why it could just snow. Why is Sutekh interested in Ruby's storyline? Obviously, Russell literally says in the audio commentary, this is where we reach complete narrative collapse, which is insane. It's when he's referring to the bit where the TARDIS has like a big laser that shoots out of it, flings it backwards. It's a little bit too Saturday morning cartoon for me. The scene with, is her name Saran Jones? I don't think it is, it might be. The actor, the wise woman or kind woman who gives the Doctor the spoon. It's just, it's fine. It's fine. The memory TARDIS is too fan servicey, and it is criminal that they show Pyramids of Mars on an iPad. They literally have characters watch a classic Who story on an iPad. Like, I've made a video about it, but Doctor Who needs to not give the audience homework. The general public should not be given homework. This was at the point where the Whoniverse was more in full swing, so at least, to be fair, at this point, you had Tales of the TARDIS where you could go and watch the Pyramids of Mars. Like, that all worked and functioned nicely. But it just doesn't hit, to be honest. Like, shout out to the production team, shout out to Russell, shout out to everyone who worked on it. You did do a good job, but I can't lie, whether it was production troubles or whatever, I just don't like it. That's harsh. I just don't buy the ending. Like, also the Ruby's mum pointing at the sign. It's just, yeah. You can tell how, like, my excitement levels are talking about these episodes. I just get deflated when Empire of Death comes up, because I feel like it's also done damage to bringing Sutekh back in the future. But also, right, I will be positive with this episode. It's fun to watch. I have rewatched it a number of times, and there are very frustrating moments, but it's well produced, it's well made, it's pretty well directed, to be fair. The effects are on top notch, it looks good, and the music's quite good. Like, there's a lot of strong elements. I think it fails in comparison, because I think, especially comparing it to Russell's other work, Russell literally used to write banger finales. Like, sure, there'd be a bit of an anticlimax, but you'd feel fulfilled, whereas this is the most unfulfilling finale other than Battle of Ranskorav Kolos. I think it might be, other than Battle of Ranskorav Kolos, the least fulfilling finale Doctor Who has ever delivered, which is a shame, but hey ho, let's not dwell on it. I'm going to put it in D. I think on a good day it's in C, but for now I'm going to have to leave it in D. There are good elements, there's good performances, but yeah. Joy to the world, Moffat's next outing for the 15th Doctor. I absolutely adore 15 in this, I can't lie. The start is exactly what I want from the Doctor. Like a weird little man in his dressing gown, bursting into the Time Hotel, trying to take command of the situation. He's got a mug, the whole quirky pumpkin latte thing, peak, lovely stuff. Nicola Coughlan as well, really nice presence in the episode. She does sort of get forgotten, and then Anita gets introduced, but I really like Anita. I really love the Doctor and Anita's story. That's fun. That's good. Then you get the twist sort of halfway through, like it's tied in with Partygate and COVID and Boris Johnson's mishandling of all of that, and it's got a nice real-world touch to it. It's quite fun, and I can't lie, I do. It looks crap, to be honest. The bit where she's glowing, it looks bizarre, it's shot weirdly, the effects are weird, but I love the idea of her being the Star of Bethlehem. You pan up, and that like, do you know, that whole thing, it's so Christmassy, it's so fun, and it's so Doctor Who. Like, it's such a Doctor Who-y Christmas special. The writing's really good as well. It was really quippy, really funny. As I say, I always give bonus points to an episode if my family enjoyed it, because they're like a general audience. I think this one works well for a general audience. They were all a little bit confused, but it's a Moffat script, and I feel like most families get confused by it. But overall, it's strong. It's a nice start. Shout out to Joy to the World. Fun episode. There's not really much to say on it. You get more of Villengard, or Villengard, as Ncuti says. I'm going to put it in B. Yeah, you know, it's fun. It's just a nice, harmless, inconsequential Christmas special. Not bad, not good. Just solid. And now we're on to season 2. I didn't even really mention the fact that Ruby's dipped. Ruby's out the door by this point in another scene which I don't fully buy in the Empire of Death, but we've done enough. We've done enough underwhelming sighs at the Empire of Death. The Robot Revolution! I am going to put in A tier. That might be controversial. But I have not had that much. I think, right, out of every single one of those episodes, that is the only episode I left feeling completely on, like, completely, my hype levels were not undermined. I left the Robot Revolution going, that was really fun. Like, I'm really excited for Doctor Who to come. Like, I think that was a fun episode for the general public. The aesthetic is peak. I love retro future stuff. Belinda, that is genuinely the strongest introduction we've had to a companion in years, in my opinion. The only part of the episode that does bother me, though, is the treatment of Alan at the end. Like, the Doctor saying, like, yes, Queen, and not even acknowledging that that was a life that has just been lost. Sure, he was an incel on Planet of the Incels, and he wasn't a nice guy, but I don't know, it just feels a little bit like, I don't know, the Doctor wouldn't do that. Like, sure, acknowledge he wasn't a good person, like, he was a control freak, but also he was a teenager. Like, he had a whole life ahead of him to grow and change and learn the error of his ways, but he just dies and then gets polished up, which, yeah, that's the only part of the episode that doesn't hit for me. The rest of it, I can't lie, I have so much fun with. As I say, Belinda, peak companion, really good stuff. I think it's quite fun as well. Al, AI generator, people complain at it, it's fun. The robots are really good, the dialogue is also absolutely popping off. I love Mrs. Flood's little cameo as well. I mean, one of my favourite scenes of this whole 15th Doctor era is when, like, the robots are in the house and they're like, the cat is irrelevant, and they shoot the cat is still irrelevant, all of that. Really funny, really fun stuff. Like, yeah, I love the Robot Revolution. It's not perfect by any means, but it's a proper return to form, I think. Like, it's got a consistent tone. I think why I really enjoyed watching it is because I was like, oh, I know where this season's going. Like, I get it. Like, this is Doctor Who. Whereas last season was experiment after experiment after experiment, the Robot Revolution felt like, here's the direction we're taking, it's good. Now, let's take a little cultural and historical context look at Doctor Who at this point. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, I think it had a relatively critically mixed reception, but I do think it restored a bit of faith to people that Doctor Who was going to be good again. And I mean, we'll talk about it now. Lux. I'm sorry, Lux is going straight in S tier. Genuinely one of the... I'm going to say it's one of the best Doctor Who episodes. That's exactly what you want out of Doctor Who. Sure, maybe at points it's a little formulaic, like you can kind of guess where it's going. They rock up in Miami. It's like, oh, we've got a, oh, here's our mystery. Oh, we'll go and find a side character to get some exposition. Oh, we'll go back and solve the mystery. Like, you can kind of see where it's going, but also it just works. It's really strong. Really good. The pacing isn't perfect though. It's not a perfect episode. It's a 9 out of 10. Okay, I am putting it in S tier because I do love it, and it's almost impossible to get a 10 out of 10 episode, to be honest. But yeah, the experimental stuff, Mr. Ring-a-Ding as a villain, I think that's what this era has really lacked, but really gets in Lux, is a strong villain. Like, Sutek's cool, but it's dog. Like, do you know, looking back at those episodes, you've got slugs, you've got goblins, you've got a landmine, you've got a creepy woman, you've got bird people, you've got a briefcase, you've got, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't hit. You've got a literal bogeyman. But Lux, Mr. Ring-a-Ding, is one of the best villains the Doctor's had to face. You also tie it into the Pantheon thing. I love that. I know people rinse the use of flashbacks in this era, but I think the flashbacks in Lux are really good when it's like, you've destroyed the god of death himself, bam, bam, bam. You're getting all the flashbacks. Mr. Ring-a-Ding's really strong presence, really fun. The coming out of the screen, breaking the fourth wall thing, it's such a shame it didn't lead... like, you can watch my theory videos, but I was so convinced we were going full meta. I thought all the fourth wall breaking was going to be there for a reason, and it was going to come full circle, but it doesn't really... and that's a shame. But no, Lux is good. It's a solid episode, really good fun. Belinda, once again, popping off. Her and the Doctor growing as characters. I love the part as well where they're like, to become 3D, we need to do exposition and, like, to be sad, and they do exposition to each other. Yeah, Lux is a really strong episode. Absolutely love Lux. It's very deserving of being an S tier. I think this is when, yeah, I was so convinced the Doctor and Belinda were going to become one of my favourite pairings. We'll discuss Belinda's ending later on. But here, Belinda was popping off. Belinda and the Doctor. Ncuti also really found his groove here, I think. Like, he's just the Doctor. I think from this point onwards, there's never a questionable moment with his performance. And I mean that with the most respect to the man, but a couple of times in Series 1, like that Sarah Jane scene, like the auto-cue in Dot and Bubble, there's a few times where it's like his Doctor's not quite clicking. Whereas this season, Season 2, and it's why it's such a shame he's left so early, he's peak Doctor, genuinely would probably make it into my top 5. Like, I did a Doctor ranking video, which, yeah, I'd be interested to see the results of that now. But then we move on to the Midnight sequel, the infamous Midnight sequel, that's not as good as Midnight, but still a very, very strong episode of television. You've got fun themes, you've got fun scares, you've got fun thrills. It doesn't really need to be a sequel to Midnight. And also, this is the point where I think the fandom started to fall in love with Doctor Who again. The Empire of Death, had deflated so many people, but by the time you get to the Well, I think the fandom was proper kicking back into gear going, oh my god, Doctor Who's good again. It's shout it from the rafters, everybody come back, Doctor Who's brilliant, I promise it's not Space Babies now, we've got the Well, we've got Lux, we've got all of this, and it is all really, really strong stuff. Yeah, if you know me and know this channel, I'm not the biggest fan of Dr. Light. Not Dr. Light, that's completely... Base Under Siege. That's the archetypal Doctor Who story I'm looking for here. I'm not the biggest fan of Base Under Siege Doctor Who stories. They just don't dwell with me, and I know that sounds stupid coming from a fan of Doctor Who which is built on Base Under Siege stories, but yeah, it's a very strong episode. It's not perfect, but I'm going to put it in A. It's nowhere near as good as Midnight, if we're being real. And as I say, it almost doesn't need to be a sequel to Midnight. I do think this is the start of Belinda getting less and less to do, to be honest. She's still good in it. She still does her I'm a nurse thing, let's go and help, which is a nice bit of characterisation. But I wish we'd seen more, because I really love the conflict between Belinda and the Doctor. I feel like they needed a big, big argument at one point, which they never really got, which is a shame. But yeah, A tier, it's good. Now, Lucky Day. Yeah, it's good. It's weird, because Season 2 is all pretty good, in my opinion. Like, I am going to put Lucky Day in A as well. Like, I know there's been a lot of discussion online about, like, oh, it's anti-protest and it's government propaganda. I don't think that I respect people's readings of texts. Like, everyone's entitled to view things the way they view things, but I don't agree. Like, I don't think that's the message of the story. I can see where people come from, but yeah, it's very much warning against facts and lies and this right-wing grifter, which is like a key phrase used on this channel, but Conrad is this right-wing grifter who creates this fictional lies, and obviously that ties into his wish world later, his reality. But yeah, it's nice setup. It's nice to see Ruby again. She's actually given more to do here. As I say, one of my biggest complaints with Ruby is the lack of giving her anything to do. You get Unit back as well. It's nice to have Shirley Ann Bingham back. She hasn't really been in it since the Giggle, I don't think. But yeah, she's a welcoming presence. Kate's really nice. There's some really nice lines in there. The Shrieks concept. Conrad is... I love that reveal. Oh, he's been playing your Ruby, because it does... You don't really notice it until you do. Like, it sounds stupid, but you don't notice he's that evil until you go... Oh, and it's a very fun, effective reveal. I think it's nice social commentary on the right-wing grifter side of YouTube as well. I will say, though, this was actually brought up by Artie in our podcast, which I do agree with. As good as the messaging is, who's it for? Because I entered the episode going, I don't like right-wing grifters, and I left the episode going, I don't like right-wing grifters. Like, it doesn't say much. It is a commentary on them, but it doesn't say anything. Do you know what I mean? It just says they're bad, which I feel like anyone who's watching this going they're bad is going to leave it going they're bad. Anyone who's watching this going they're good is going to leave it going it's work propaganda. So it's kind of like, I don't know, a little bit mixed messaging, and obviously you've got the people saying it idolises the government and Unit and all of that. I don't know, it's not perfect, but I do enjoy it. It's an 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10 episode. Solid, good fun. I'd say deserving of A tier, just as the story and the engine is also... Ooh, I don't know, I'm in two minds. Story and the engine, I'm going to put it in B tier, okay? What I love about the story and the engine is it feels like a breath of fresh air. I think It's not the most structurally sound story, but it's basically written as a play. Like Inua Ellams, who wrote this episode, it feels like it's got a very fresh voice behind it, which I really respect and really like to see, because as we've identified, an awful lot of these episodes have been written by Russell T Davies or Stephen Moffat, which I love. I love both of them, but Doctor Who survives and thrives off change, so it's nice to see a new writer here. Yeah, it's solid. I think the trouble is, it's when you're watching it, it's not too tricky to sort of follow as such, but if I were to ask you to explain to me the plot, I couldn't do it now. I've watched this 3 times. I couldn't explain the villain's plan. There's nice lines in there. There's a lot of nice stuff. It is solid, it's good. And it's lovely to see Joe Martin's Fugitive Doctor briefly crop up. But yeah, it's still a little bit waffly, and I know there's a lot of complaints about the Doctor Who ending with like little clip shows of flashing of all the Doctors. I think that works well in this context. The problem is they then do it in the next 2 episodes. They literally do it 3 times this season, almost in a row. But it's a solid story. It feels fresh, it feels new. And yeah, at this point in the series, I do think that the biggest problem with it is Belinda is just shafted. Like, Belinda just gets nothing to do, again. We need more Belinda. She has such a strong start. Varada Sethu is acting her heart out, popping off. Genuinely could have been one of the best Doctor Who companions, but... And I think it's a problem with an 8-episode season, but she just gets like less and less to do as the season goes on. But yeah, story and the engine overall, I think it's good fun. It's not perfect, it's not peak Doctor Who, but it feels fresh, it feels new, nice to hear from a new voice, new setting, new environment, new experience for the Doctor. I think it's good. It's a solid episode. And now for controversial territory, the Interstellar Song Contest. Now, obviously, this episode was written years ago, before all of the conflict and stuff in the real world that gets related to this episode was properly at the point it is now. I don't think the intent of this episode was anti-protest, anti-anything. I think the point was supposed to be music brings people together. It was a bit of a celebration of Eurovision with a little bit of commentary thrown in. But the commentary feels a little bit mixed in points. It's not the worst episode of all time, but I didn't enjoy it as much as a lot of the others. I do think it's fun though, and that's what I can give it. It is a fun episode to watch. I had fun with it. The Mrs. Flood reveal I'll almost class as its own thing. Terrible, bad reveal. The rest of it, like, you can tell the budget's on show in the first 10 minutes or so, when all the people are flung out of the arena. That's really nice. Susan coming back is one of those loose plot threads I was talking about at the start of this video. But yeah, it's a bit of a mess, to be honest. Like the Juno Dawson, the writer, said Russell pitched it to her as Eurovision crossed with Die Hard in space, which I see the influences there, but it doesn't quite deliver, to be honest. I don't know what it is. It's nice to have Rylan there. Shout out to Rylan. And the cat person as well. It's fun. There's a lot of aliens. Dogadoo as well. Very marketable, generating content. Yeah, Dogadoo's good fun. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't quite click for me. I think it might be the ending, because we can't separate the Mrs. Flood reveal fully from the ending. I know it technically is post-credits, but it's just bad. How much build-up have we had to Mrs. Flood only to be thrown like, oh, what, she's the Rani. You don't know who the Rani is? Check it out on iPlayer. Next. Like, do you know, like, it doesn't feel tied into the story. When you had the Master reveal in Series 3, you have the setup of the pocket watches, that whole jazz. You have the Doctor constantly going, I'm the last of the Time Lords, this is so sad. And here, it's kind of like, oh, well, I'm the Rani, and I'm the Rani, let's go and be evil. And I don't like the fact that Mrs. Flood is instantly swept aside to be a servant to Archie Punjabi's Rani. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't quite hit. So the Interstellar Song Contest I am going to put in C tier. It's similar to the Devil's Chord. I think on a good day it would go in B tier. I feel like C tier may be a little bit harsh for it, but yeah, I don't know, there's something about the whole episode that doesn't quite gel for me. Then we're on to the latest season finale. Part 1, Wish World. I genuinely really enjoyed Wish World, I can't lie. Like, it wasn't perfect by any means, but it was a fun, unravelling mystery. But the problem is it's very much a part 1. And what Russell does weirdly with this two-parter, part 1 feels vastly different to part 2, but part 1 is all set up. And it feels almost, it's all set up for a story that we don't get. Like, it's difficult to judge part 1 on its own because just like Legend of Ruby Sunday, it feels like it's just set up. So part 1 and part 2 are kind of intrinsically linked, except there's a big disjoint between the two, I feel. I'm going to put Wish World in B. It's similar vibes to the story in the engine, to be honest. It doesn't quite work for me fully, but I did have a lot of fun with it. The Omega reveal as well. I will discuss Omega. I mean, they teased Omega coming back, which I think as soon as we didn't see the mask is when I started to get like, as soon as we didn't, because they used archive footage for his voice, well, archive audio for his voice, is the point where I was like, okay, we're probably not going to see Omega properly. But yeah, it's a weird one, is Wish World. Not bad. Quite fun. There's a lot of good parts, to be honest. I think maybe I'm slightly more negatively affected of it because of the part 2. But yeah, part 1 was good fun. And no, I'm going to put it in A. I liked it. Thinking back, what's important is how you feel when you watch it for the first time. I didn't feel underwhelmed. I thought the dialogue was actually, for the most part, really solid. I think there was like 1 or 2 lines which are silly, but you've got like the Ranis, both of them are giving a good performance. Conrad being sort of this useless lump locked away in their bone palace was quite fun. The visuals are really striking, the bone beasts are really good. Yeah, it's a strong part 1, and it's a good cliffhanger as well. The Doctor falling off that balcony to his certain doom. It's solid. Yeah, it's solid. It's going in A. It's staying in A. Now, the reality war. The finale to the 15th Doctor. We've been on quite the journey here. I mean, I've been recording for an hour and a half at this point. Just over an hour and a half, actually. I don't know how long the video will be by this point, but yeah, we've made it. This shouldn't be the end of Ncuti's era, should it? There should be another 2 seasons. Or 3 seasons. But prematurely, we've been cut off. When they initially shot this episode, we know for a fact that it was going to be a 45-minuter, it was going to wrap up, and there was going to be a cliffhanger into Series 3 with Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. But because Disney didn't recommission it, and as I say, I think this is a retrospective video, I do think that is kind of the fault of Space Babies, not just Space Babies, the TV production climate we're in, but the beginning of Season 1 didn't capture enough eyes onto Doctor Who. Thus, yeah, we ended up with Ncuti Gatwa leaving early, so they had to rewrite and refilm the final. Well, they added another 15 minutes and then did a bunch of rewrites and reshoots to finish off the reality war in February of this year, which really isn't that long ago when you think about it. But you know what? Unlike 90% of the internet, I had quite a lot of fun with the reality war, if I'm being honest. It's not perfect. And it's the best way I can describe it is similar to how The Power of the Doctor made me feel. I can completely see that there's bits of fan service, maybe it's a little bit contrived, the plot doesn't 100% work, but it's a load of fun. And I'm not being funny, I think it might be up there. It's top 3 Ncuti 15th Doctor moments when he's on the Green Goblin glider, he's shouting like, Shirley, press these buttons, Ruby, do this, and Shirley's like, just shut up and go! And then he gets on the bike, his theme kicks in. As I mentioned at the start of the video, 15's theme, one of the best themes the show has ever had. He's flying over Tower Bridge, goes across the water, flies, smashes through the Bone Palace, all of that. It's really, really nice. Also, Omega's inclusion doesn't bother me as much as it does most, because Omega's not in that episode. He's not. You know me, I'm the man who made the History of Omega video. You can check it out in the link in the description. But no, I love Omega. I do. He's my favourite classic Who villain. But that was not Omega. That was a contorted, wished version of him that came through the Underverse. The real Omega is still ripe to return one day. Like, that was a contorted image of him, not him. Unlike Sutek, for example, who, if someone ever brings Sutek back, they've got to kind of acknowledge the events of Empire of Death and what he looked like in that. Whereas here, that he's not Omega. And I know people go, oh, he'll cope, he's just coping. Listen to what he says. Like, when Omega comes out of that thing, the Rani literally looks at him like, that's not Omega, what is this? And like the Doctor's like, he's been contorted, and sure, maybe the spirit of the original man is there, contorted into this over years, but it's not him. This is a time travel show. If that's maybe the point Omega reaches at the end of his life, sure. But Omega can still return properly one day, okay? And sure, it is underwhelming as an Omega fan to have him literally show up for 3 minutes and it's not even really him. Like, that's a shame. But it doesn't, I think it doesn't feel crowded as much. There's a lot going on in the episode, but I can't lie, I enjoy most of it. Even the Rani's confrontation with Unit, sure, it's a little bit cheesy, it's very camp, and there's a lot of complaints, but I quite like that the Rani isn't doing the sort of Toymaker or the Master thing of, I'm evil and I'm in control. She's literally just like, look, I'm doing an experiment here, I'm trying to bring back the Time Lords, come with me, why don't you help me out? And she doesn't value human life at all. I think it's quite nice. Like, it's fun, it's silly. Sure, there's a couple of ropey lines, there's a couple of cringy moments, but overall, I genuinely have fun with the episode. And I think it's actually not, like, considering the circumstances, it is the best send-off Ncuti Gatwa could have got, or gotten, or had. I mean, the way, like, he sacrifices himself to save one child is so quintessentially Doctor Who. It's such a Doctor Who way to go. It's such, like, a nice character beat, and I just wish, I love the scene with the 13th Doctor, but I kind of wish that was Susan, like, tie up why she was in Interstellar, why she was in Wishworld. If that was Susan who crops up and he finally goes back to her, it would have paid off his character arc with Ruby, where, yeah, he actually learnt to say I love you, he learnt to care about, he learnt not to suppress things, he went back and saw Susan. But no, we don't get that. The biggest downfall of this episode, though, is its treatment of Belinda. Utterly bizarre. Utterly bizarre. Now, there's a lot of conspiracies that obviously this finale was written or conceptualised years in advance with Ruby as the companion, because as I alluded to, I think Millie Gibson left the show earlier than anticipated. But they literally shove Belinda in a box for half the episode. Then when she comes out, she has no choice in the fact that she becomes a single mother, which is just weird. Like, no hate to single mums out there, shout out to all the single mums, but the fact that it's not Belinda's choice, the fact that she's sort of, she is, I get people call her like a career woman or whatever, I don't think it's intentional at all. I don't think this is people trying to be misogynistic. I think it's just a byproduct of a lot of rewrites and time constraints, but the ending, the Belinda that we knew and loved and followed throughout the season is dead. She's gone. And the Doctor seems fine with that. He just leaves with this child. Her whole history's been rewritten. Yeah, it just is a really weird ending to Belinda. I think that's the thing that really dampens my enjoyment of the episode, because other than that, I can't lie, I don't hate it. I think it's quite fun. There's a lot of fun stuff, there's a lot of silly stuff. It's just Belinda, and then obviously it's a separate thing entirely, but Billie Piper being the Doctor or not being the Doctor or whatever is happening there, that's also really weird and a very controversial, as you can see by the internet's reaction. So I don't know, the reality war for me is a very mixed episode. I'm still not quite over the shock of it. It's been over a week now, but I just can't quite place my finger on it. Because the problem is, I can see a lot of faults, and I can see a lot of things I don't like Belinda, like the 16th Doctor stuff, but I had a lot of fun with it. Like, it's a lot of fun. It didn't leave me feeling underwhelmed. It didn't leave me feeling empty. I genuinely did enjoy it, which I know is a really controversial take. Like, I'm usually relatively with the general consensus on like Empire of Death. I felt very underwhelmed, but Reality War, I genuinely quite enjoy it. And I am going to have to put it in A tier. It's not as good as Lux, but it's a good episode. I have fun with it. You best believe I'll be rewatching it quite a few times. When I get bored, it's as I say, it's a similar category to Power of the Doctor. It's when I get bored, I'm going to stick it on and enjoy. It's not the best episode. It's not a piece of perfect art to hang in an art museum, but it's good fun. I had fun with it. It's an entertainment show and it entertained me. It's just a shame that Ncuti Gatwa's left this early. So, rounding this video to a conclusion, there's my ranking of 15-0. Only one S-tier story. Quite a lot in A, to be fair. The vast majority are in A. Only one in D, so the odds aren't too bad. My overall analysis, though, is that there were clearly production trouble, delay after production trouble and delay, which is nobody's fault technically, but it's just a crying shame. It's a shame it's ended this early as well, no matter how much the behind the scenes says this was always the plan. No, it wasn't. And it's okay to admit that. Ncuti Gatwa was great in the role, but alas, he's gone. And this is the era we're left with. Not bad, not good, you know what? I'd say good. It's good. It's not the best. It's not bad. It's not terrible. It's just a good era. A good era of Doctor Who, which should have gone on longer. I genuinely think, give him 2 more seasons, iron out a couple of the production troubles, this could have been an all-timer. Like, Russell has the sauce. People say he's lost the sauce. Russell's still got the sauce. Stephen Moffat cropping up every now and then to do an episode. Good fun. New writers, having people like Inua Ellams come in and give a new take. Really nice. Yeah, solid era. Overall, I'd give the era a 7 out of 10. There's a couple of misses. There's a couple of really strong highlights. It's good fun. It's just a shame that it's over. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you did enjoy. As ever, please do feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share. You know the drill. Thank you for checking me out. You can check out Patreon as well, or channel memberships, exclusive content, cool vlogs, fun stuff there. Thank you. I'll stop waffling. I need a drink and a lie down. Goodbye.
Don't forget to click below and subscribe to the official Confused Adipose YouTube channel.
I will destroy you!
She's not seen a single episode.
No, I've watched your episodes.
Keep these sonic screwdrivers.
What else am I saying about the film? Don't watch this one.